Okay, so I'll get started right now. Welcome. My name is Daniel Mikosz, and I teach at Seattle Central in the Baking and Pastry Department of Seattle Culinary Academy. I'm one of three of the pastry instructors. I teach all first quarter students. I've been at the school since teaching at Seattle Central since, during the pandemic. It was fall, September of 2020. Prior to that, I was the assistant pastry chef over at the Sheraton Hotel. I ran a bakery up on Camano Island for a few years. Prior to that, I worked with a few hotels before that, doing all of their wedding cakes for the W Hotel, a couple other hotels in Seattle. I started out in pastry. It was a little over 20 years ago. I am one of those people that made an enormous career change. I did not start out in the food business. I actually got a 4-year degree back in the Midwest, studying finance, and I minored in economics. And did that for a while. And then in my late 20s, early 30s, I decided to make a career change. I had no idea that I didn't even know anything about baking and pastry, to be honest with you. I had an interest in food. I knew that a career in finance was not really, it wasn't extremely meaningful to me. It was like one of those things that I thought I was supposed to be doing. Based on a kind of a whim that I was like, yeah, I like food. Maybe I might, I don't know, look into that. From there, I learned about baking and pastry, and I heard how that it was a bit artistic, that the mediums that were used in the career were, it kind of married food and art. And the strange thing was that I was like really big into art as a kid, and actually when I was younger and even through high school, I loved it. But yeah, wonder why I studied finance, but I guess that was the practical thing to do. And so I made this big leap of faith and went to culinary school, specifically baking pastry in 2000. January of 2000, I started. So over 23 years ago. And a couple of things. One, I had moved from where I grew up in Chicago to the Pacific Northwest in the mid-90s. So I was here in the Northwest when I went to culinary school, and the best program that I found in the area, as I was starting a family and I didn't really want to go to school out of state, was at South Seattle Community College. And I found myself enrolled in there January of 2000. And I've never looked back. People have asked me that, did I make the right decision? Did I haven't regretted it once. It's been an incredible journey so far. And being in the business for quite some time, I was asked actually throughout my career, if I ever wanted to teach, because for some reason, whenever I was either working at a hotel or working for a specific chef, for some reason, they always asked me if I would be interested in training the people. And for some reason, I just really enjoy doing that. So I'd say about 8 or 9 years ago, I had an opportunity to actually formally teach at a private culinary school, Le Cordon Bleu, and did that for a few years and just fell in love with passing on information and experience that I gathered along the years to students. And with the when at the start of the pandemic, I was in the hospital. I was working for a big hotel in Seattle, and business just immediately stopped. We went from a kitchen of about 30 people, really big kitchen, and it went all the way down to 2 people. Everybody else was laid off, myself included. And it was then that the dean at the time of Seattle Culinary Academy at Central, called me up. She knew me and asked me if I would be interested in teaching. And I said, yeah. So again, I started in the fall of 2020. And the ironic thing is that another one of the instructors who has been teaching up here since I think like 99, like right before I started, Chef Christopher Harris, he was teaching at South Seattle at the time, and he was my instructor 20-something years ago. And now he has moved to Seattle Central, and I'm teaching alongside of him. And it's just been really cool to come full circle and do that. So so that was a little bit about me. Okay, so more importantly, I'd like to go through this little PowerPoint with you about what we have to offer at Seattle Central and at Seattle Culinary Academy. So let's start out here with this first slide. So there's 2 full-time technical programs. One is culinary, right? Savory food, culinary arts. And the other one is baking and specialty baking and desserts, which is the program that I'm in. We have 2 student-run restaurants at Seattle Central. What I liked about South, one of the things that I really liked about South when I went there, and I also had checked out this program as well at Central when I was looking to go to culinary school. The focus was certainly obviously teaching people how to bake, how to cook, in a professional environment. But what they had at both schools, and we certainly have here, are these outlets where products that students are making, okay, are being sold to the public. And in addition to the restaurants that are being run there, we also have a coffee shop, cafe, little bakery called The Buzz, which is on the first floor right off of Broadway. And fresh bread, Danish, pastry, cakes, cookies, scones, what have you, sandwiches are being sent to the cafe every day from our kitchens. where the students are in charge of making, and then also going through different rotations and working. So I have students, to give you an idea, I have students now in the first quarter who have these rotations where they're actually working at the cafe, getting some experience actually being in an environment, in the food environment, where they're not just in a kitchen producing product, but they're also in a business where they're selling it and meeting the public. Okay, and I think that's just really wonderful, because I believe culinary. I'll answer your question in 1 second, Cora. One of the really important things about that I believe that a culinary school can do, all right, or what I think it should do, is to train people to a little bit about what it's like to be in the business. And I tell all my students this at the get-go. Working in a professional kitchen, bakery, what have you, in the quote unquote real world is very, very different than making something at home. Okay. And being a home app, even if you're a serious home cook or baker, it's very different. And I don't know, maybe it was that I was totally ignorant to all of that when I went to culinary school, but I just signed up and went along, and I actually started working in the business after school while I was going to school. And what our school offers is like these outlets where that people can not totally simulates, but does in a certain respect simulates what real world baking and cooking is like. And again, our program, people will come for different, I think for different reasons. People will go to culinary schools or go to school for different reasons, but we really focus on those who are looking to start a career, develop their career. Some people who are in the business and want to elevate their career. They've been working maybe at a bakery. They haven't really been learning a lot. Maybe they want to take their skills up to another level. So they come to culinary school. And so that's something that I think we here at Seattle Central really work. So I'm sorry, somebody had Cora, you had a question? Sure. Did anybody else have a question? I think Cora's it's a technical issue with her microphone. Did anybody have any questions? Okay, here it is. Oh, great question. No, it works. It's part of, no, you do not get paid, but it counts as class hours. Yes, it's included in your final grade. The way instructors organize their classes, the quarters a little different. when you start out, like say if you were start out and start your first quarter, you would have me as an instructor, and we would go through these different stations. You would rotate through different stations in the kitchen, whether it's working on tarts or say cakes or custard, something like that. But there would also be a 2-week rotation where you would actually be working in the cafe, and that would then count as class hours. Okay. All right. So I'll get back to this. So a number of our chefs have won various awards, whether they've been on the culinary side or on pastry. I've competed in a few competitions on the state level, doing a few different kinds of artistic showpieces. Have won a couple place awards, second, third place. I'm also certified as an executive pastry chef with the American Culinary Federation. A few years ago, some chefs through the ACF, or American Culinary Federation, which we're accredited by, which is a governing group of chefs, they will offer certification. What does that mean? It means based on somebody's experience, their management experience, along with various references from chefs that one has worked under, along with a few exams on nutrition and management, and also sanitation that have to be taken and passed. You also have to complete I think at the time it was a 5 or 6 hour practical, which you are graded by chefs. So I did a practical. My practical was, I think, in 2014. It was in Seattle, in a kitchen in Seattle at a school, and there were a number of chefs from the American Culinary Federation who were flown to Seattle to oversee and to grade the chefs who were looking to get accreditation. And what does that do? Well, it kind of it basically says to the community or to the industry that if you're accredited or certified by the federation, you have a certain level of expertise, experience, knowledge, and technique that deems you, in their eyes, as a chef, as a professional chef, whether it's pastry or culinary. And we have a number of instructors who have been certified by the ACF. And I got my certification in, I want to say, I think it was 2014, 2015. And I'm actually in the process now of taking some exams online to get recertified. And then the entire program at Seattle Culinary Academy is also accredited by the American Culinary Federation, meaning there are representative chefs who come in to our school on a regular basis and evaluate our program, the curriculum, our resources, our equipment that we're using, the program itself, and then grade it. And we have been, in the past, given extremely high marks for our curriculum and program here at Central. We also focus on sustainability. We've been awarded the Green Award, meaning we are very, very strong and have a very strong sustainable program, meaning that we are very big into composting. We are very big into recycling. It's very important that we are cooking with products that are that non-GMO products, that we aren't using any, as far as like any flours that we're using in the bake shop. They're all non-GMO. Not everything is organic, but we do have quite a few products that are organic. We're baking and cooking with the seasons. So we try to, depending on when you're in school, depending on what quarter it is that we're using products that are being grown at that time and that are in season. We're located right downtown, right in Capitol Hill. Tons of restaurants and eating establishments all around us, and there have always been so many graduates of the program, whether it was in Seattle Central or at South Seattle, that are now working in the industry locally at a bunch of the at a bunch of restaurants and, as I said, food establishments in the Seattle area. Okay. So here are just a few pictures of some of the cakes, entremets. Entremet is just a fancy word for like kind of a fancy cake that some of the students have done. We meet 4 days a week, either from typically at 7:30 in the morning, there's a theory class. So for instance, for the first quarter students, theory starts at 7:30. It's in a classroom. It's a classroom setting. We have a textbook that we go through, and we talk a lot about food, the science, the mechanics of baking, what's going on, how different ingredients react with each other, classic techniques, mixing methods. That usually goes from 7:30 to almost 9 o'clock, 3 days a week, from 7:30 to about a little bit before 9 o'clock. Okay. Most of it is in a classroom, but then there's also some demonstrations that I do and other instructors do to to show you, to kind of bring what we're teaching or what is being taught from a textbook and actually bringing it, into like something that students could actually see. So when I talk about, like, say, some kind of a let's say mixing method with making a certain kind of cake, I'll actually demonstrate that. And that's part of the lecture part or theory part in the morning. And then from 9 a.m. to, I'm going to say like 1:30 or maybe 3 o'clock. It depends on what quarter you're in. We are in the kitchen doing hands-on, working with the product, practicum, okay, where we're actually in the pastry lab making product, okay? We have starts in the fall, winter, spring. We really don't, there may be some online class, but everything now is pretty much, we've all gone back to face-to-face. Some classes were still, some instructors are still requiring masks. We haven't been very fortunate. We haven't had to do that in the pastry lab. this all last year, starting from the fall, and so far this year. So to receive a certificate, it's 4 quarters, 15 months, and it takes 75 credits to graduate. If you get an associate's degree of applied science, it's 5 quarters, 18 months, okay, and it's 90 credits to graduate. A little bit about the cost. To get a certificate, tuition is roughly $8,600 for the entire program. That breaks down to about $2,200 per quarter. In addition to that, there's textbooks, or at least one textbook, a toolkit that we go over at the beginning of the first quarter, where I'll go over certain tools that you need, that you don't necessarily need, what would be required, and then also your uniforms, and that comes out to about $1,400. Okay. This just gives you a little idea of some of the different products that that students are doing. We've got some beautifully laminated chocolate croissant, Benoiserie here. Basically dough, croissant dough, how croissants are made, using a lamination technique. Plated dessert with, I believe this is a piece of blown sugar, that's sitting on a bed of, it looks like streusel, and some sauce. We have another plated dessert to the right of that. Underneath, we have some artisanal bread with some designs that are scored into it before baking. Looks like a small little wedding cake here that some students were working on. And then finally, we have a, looks like a raspberry tart. So quite a few different products that students are making. And then, like I said, most of practically all of it, all of the products are going to one of those 3 outlets, either fine dining at One World for, like, say, plated desserts, or the bakery at the coffee shop at the Buzz. Croissants, tarts, breads, cakes are going to the going over there. Okay, so they're all made by students, run by students. And here's just a little thing about our coffee shop, the Buzz, showing some fresh bread. Students are also instructed on, there's actually a class as you get into the 4th quarter, a barista class where you learn about making certain coffee drinks, lattes and such. A picture with some, these look like plated desserts, which may not be sent to the Buzz over here. That one picture up, or the one next to it, a bunch of varieties of different cookies. And then finally here, we have some breads down below with a little sign saying that all of the pastries and breads are done by our students. We try to use as much organic ingredients whenever possible, and nothing with any artificial flavorings in it. Everything is natural and pretty high-end ingredients. I know when I first started working at Seattle Central, I was actually pretty blown away about the quality and the high quality of the products, the chocolates, the dairy, the butter that we were using. I was really impressed by that, because there are certainly ingredients are pretty pricey these days. And that's true for people who are buying it, wholesale, professionals. And there are places that I've worked at that weren't buying some of the really higher end products, ingredients that we are using at the school, which I thought was pretty amazing, actually. So But I believe that's part of the commitment that the program and the instructors have about trying to use the finest products that we can get um, uh, for our students and for instruction. So just a little thing about sustainability in our program. Um, we usually follow the seasons. We try and get as many local products as possible in both programs. We have a sustainable seafood program. We have extremely strong local producer partnerships. Included a very strong social justice ethic throughout the program. Over on the culinary side, students are taught nose to tail butchery, meaning using up the entire animal product. Okay. We are advocates of composting, recycling. We have a program that Chef Craig Heatherton, who is another instructor who's in another breakout room, um, representing the culinary side. He has a program where him and his students, they collect all of the non-recyclable plastic that we go through, whether it's gloves, plastic wrap, anything that we can't recycle. They collect all of it and then they weigh it, and then they see the quantity of non-recyclable plastic that the school is going through, the different departments, and then thinking of ways or strategies of cutting back on that. Okay. Our One World fine dining restaurant, we're all no genetically modified ingredients whatsoever. We have classes on food preservation, okay, that are intertwined in the regular curriculum of the program. And then we also offer a bunch of different opportunities beyond the classroom, various culinary baking pastry externships in the United States and outside of the United States, where some of the students that I know that graduated started out with me and have since graduated. Few have taken advantages of some of the programs that we offer externships in Spain, and after graduation have been working in restaurants and establishments over in Europe. We also have hosted a bunch of various competitions. One is going on right now. As you can see, the International Tapas Competition, the Korean Consulate Culinary Competition. We also do various volunteering and have different community involvement. World Central Kitchen Training, which we just had last year. I believe it was in the fall of last year. Burning Beast, Incredible Feast, Slow Food Supper. We're actually asking for volunteers in a couple of months because we're doing a fundraiser, raising money, and asking for volunteers. We're going to do in a big dinner and fundraiser and raise money for the people who have been affected in Syria and Turkey by the devastating earthquakes a couple of weeks ago. So we've always tried to be very community involved and very strong in volunteering and providing opportunities not only for students, but also people, staff, where we can get involved with the students as well. And I think all of that really, I have to say, it's an extremely close, tight-knit program that we have. I think it's really something special. And that doesn't happen everywhere. I know. I have worked in some kitchens that have been so competitive and so toxic. And then I have worked in kitchens that the camaraderie, the working together, it truly is just an incredible experience working together as a team. And I feel we have that here at Seattle Central with the instructors and the students. So, wow. Thank you all so much for listening. I am